Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not to Comic Book. This being a show, we're talking about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Krypton. A lot of interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. First and foremost, there's the whole situation with Seg and Zod. Now, there's a lot of, obviously, the complicated dynamic of father and son there, and just the whole situation about, what you did to Lyda. The whole situation of, the reconditioning, and obviously, because in Seg's mind, it's if you tell her the truth, she'll break free from your reconditioning, because she'll realize, you did that to her, and the fact of the matter is she'll rise up against you, and she'll get basically all the Sagittari to turn against you, because they'll realize just how much of a piece of crap you are. So once that's all said and done, this foundation you built, this army, will kind of end up being your undoing, essentially. But, Zod doesn't feel, for one, he says there will be unforeseen consequences for doing that. I wonder, because, to be fair, it's probably telling her that her mind's been changed might drive her insane, and her brain trying to compete with it, because obviously we've seen the ramifications last episode when she was wait, what? When Seg brought up that memory, her, that she doesn't remember, her nose started to bleed, and it's because her brain can't compensate. The fact is that, it's trying to remember something that has kind of been erased from her mind, and it's her brain trying to compensate, kind of, or at least her body starts attacking itself in a certain extent. So if the truth comes out, who knows what that could do? It could end up ultimately leading to her dying or whatever. So, but there's so many interesting conversations with this whole situation, because I love the whole conversation of I get it, I wasn't there in your life, but the fact of the matter is now you're trying to make us into the parents you wanted us to be for you, even though I wasn't, there for you for particular reasons and stuff like that. And it's interesting because even Zod's everything he always did, he, it's obviously everything he's done now is because it's in his mind, I'm doing it for my mom. The fact is, such a proud and brave woman was kind of broken down after everything, so he wanted to do what's kind of, do what's best for her to kind of make sure she doesn't go down that route. But at the same time, it's hey, I want to make you proud, or at the very least want it to. Now I no longer want anything to do with you, because he sees that him and his dad will never see eye to eye, because when it's once again, it's that whole thing of it's just like Jor-El, him and Jor-El could never see eye to eye, him and Clark can never see eye to eye. It's that damn L side of the family, just there's no getting through to them, because they're not willing, because he wants to justify and make it seem like he's doing everything. I'm doing this for Krypton. It's we know what you're capable of doing, the fact that you conquer worlds and everything like that. You're planning to take this way beyond Krypton. Anyone that doesn't kneel before you, which is interesting, because Seg to a certain extent made you kneel before him so that was interesting. It's interesting because Zod had brought up the fact is that no one has ever, been able to resist the reconditioning. So it's how was he able to do? And that's what I was wondering last episode, what that whole thing was supposed to represent. Was that little bit of Brainiac that was there, protected him and kind of got deleted? But it's no, it's still there within him. It actually kind of protected his brain. And obviously he's talking to Brainiac, and it's okay, he's asking questions how are you going to handle this? And obviously he changes the subject, because not letting anyone in the show know about his condition, because it'd probably make everyone a little less willing to trust him if they know that Brainiac's in his head, because it turns out it's not full on Brainiac. It's only a small minuscule fraction of him that's left inside of Seg. Most of him was kind of wiped out when Seg did what he did, but there's still that small section that was enough to kind of keep him sentient enough inside of Seg, also enough to protect Seg from the reconditioning. But circling back to this whole thing, it's actually interesting when he actually explains, I didn't actually change much with Lyta. The fact of the matter is she was already going through so much pain because, hey, she had to shoot her mom, to protect me, and then obviously losing you. All I did was I kind of erased that pain. It's it didn't take much to kind of put her on my side, which obviously it seems like you got rid of more than just pain. But I guess it makes sense in certain regards, because it's obviously didn't get rid of a lot of the feelings she has for Seg, but the more painful memories, I guess that memory of when they first met, that was kind of a very painful memory, because it just kind of makes her feel even more that he was gone. But I guess maybe kind of a thing of the knowledge that he was important to her is there, and he's the father of our child, so there's that all plays an element. But I think just a lot of that, because when you take away the pain, because once again, it's something I've talked about before, once again referencing Kingdom Hearts, because I can't stop myself. It's hurt is good, because it shows that if you didn't hurt, that means you didn't care about something. So that's kind of the beauty of just the whole, human condition. And obviously, I know in this case we're talking about Kryptonians, but I think the same thing kind of applies. But it's like, and even Seg says, like, the thing you took away from Lyta was her empathy, something that a lot of Zods struggle with. Jaina struggled with empathy just because the Zod family kind of beats that out of you, of like showing no mercy. And that's why, even Seg has a hard time believing Zod when it's like, oh, I'll choose Lyta over winning this war. It's like, that's just not the way Zods usually are. Lyta being the exception to that because of her empathy. It's like, you change what is one of the core values of who she is, what separates her, kind of the whole thing. It's like, he's trying to say like, oh, I didn't change much, but you changed enough in her to make her more like you. And that's the whole point Seg was making. Like, you wanted us to be more like you. But then, like, obviously there's a lot of other things, like Nyssa and her betrayal. She didn't know things were going to play out the way they did, like the oxygen having being tainted. With the moment she finds out, wait, what? All those ground force people are dead. That's a shit ton of people that died, and now Nyssa has that on her conscience. Like, yeah, she was going to interfere with everything, but she didn't realize that she was putting those people towards her death. And Lyta's like, oh, you really didn't think it was going to end that way. But it's like, she didn't, and now she has to live with that, because obviously it was all for the sake of her son, sure, but it still doesn't make it better. It doesn't justify what she did helping them do that. And now all those countless people lost their lives, and now that's on her. She has to carry that weight because of that. Obviously, I also love like kind of tying everything together, like Adam and Kim. It's like Adam is like, oh, hey Lyta, it's me, and Kim is like, shut up, and she's like, yeah, sex friend, you remember? He's like, right, Adam, the one who wanted to kill our son and wanted to let Brainiac take Kandor. He's like, that's a very extreme, what was it, out of context situation. Like, you're cutting that completely out of context, and it's like, shut up and you won't die. And it's just kind of like, Kim's like, yeah, just be quiet. You're just making things worse. I even love it later when it's like, Kim is like, I'm about to be executed as a traitor because of this whole Sagittari situation. I'm betraying the Sagittari. You are going to be executed for being associated with the traitor. And then I love Adam being like, if I'm going to be executed, it's going to be because of something I did all on my own. You got it? And Kim is like, really? That's what's upsetting you about this situation? You picked the weirdest thing. But I guess it makes sense, because it's like, no. I stood up and did the right thing. My hero moment. Like, that's all Adam wants. So he wants to be recognized. If I have to be executed, it's because I was a hero, not just because I was like tagged along with something someone else did. It's like, no, I want my actions to kind of be my own. He wants to be his own person, So, that I love that playing a role in that situation. There's also the whole situation with Jax, I think is interesting, when she kind of brings everything up to Val about, it's like, oh, like her plans and everything. For her, she's willing to do whatever it takes to win this war, but she doesn't want Val to directly be involved, because it's like, what are the L's? The L's represent hope, and that's literally the symbol of their family. And it's like, you bring hope to Krypton. That's why so many people within the Resistance are willing to fight for you when they wouldn't do that for me. Like, when she was laying Black Zero, she never got the support they now have because of Val, because of the L name and all that it represents. So she's trying to basically keep his hands as blood free as possible. Like, let me do the dirty work, and when the time comes, you step up and reunite us all. He's kind of like the face of the Resistance, where she's the one that, she's the, like I said, get her hands dirty type, which obviously Val doesn't click with. For him, it's like, it's not right to do this. Like, he's willing to kind of give people chances. Jax isn't, which, that I think that kind of stems from her Black Zero days of just kind of having a zero tolerance for a lot of stuff, to the point when it's like, oh, they're supposed to be surrendering and whatnot. She does it. I love it. It's like, oh yeah, Lyta is like, oh, how you explain what you did with your eye doesn't matter. It just immediately, I'm like, that's heat vision to a certain extent. Like, yes, there's a scientific reason behind it and stuff like that, but it's like, hey, to a certain extent, you somehow snuck heat vision into a pre-Superman show. I just think that's kind of fascinating. It's also interesting that, like, technologically based, you kind of made heat vision without really knowing this heat vision. I'm sure maybe that's what it reminds me of, but I thought that was kind of interesting, because obviously Lyta's like, no, like, I already know Seg's back, because Val was hoping on that being the thing that kind of breaks Lyta, because it also turns out Lyta's also the one that did that to Jack's eye, messed it up like that the last time they tried to pull her over to their side, but she was like, no, I'm on this side, bam, and apparently ended up messing Jax up. But what I thought was kind of, interesting was, like I said, Val trying to, like, hey, if we tell her about Seg, she'll definitely shift sides. But it's like, No, because I don't think they realize, because the only person who knows for sure is like Seg is the only one that knows that she's been reconditioned. And no one else really knows that, you know, because I don't even think even Dev does. Everyone thinks like, oh, she's doing this 100% of her own free. It's so interesting because in a twisted sense, Zod did kind of give her free will, but at the same time, you're like, yeah, but after you'd already kind of put suggestions in her head, like you'd already kind of molded her in the direction you wanted her to go. So of course she's going to make the decisions you want her to make, and you're fine with her making, because she's going to do everything to comply with what you want, because she thinks that's what she wants. It's a whole complicated thing. But because when it's all said and done, you know, Jack's even threatening, like, oh, I'll kill Lyta if you don't back down. And Zod's actually backing down. I'm like, yeah, but even then, I'm immediately like, yeah, you can't count him out. Like, Zod's probably most likely got a plan of like, oh, like, I'm going to pretend like I am. But because him, it's like, it's about getting what he wants. He's not going to, once again, not kneel to anyone. So it's like, in his mind, it's like, I'm not going to have to sacrifice anything. I'm going to get everything I want, no matter what the cost, you know? So it's, you know, he doesn't think he'll have to pay the price. And so it's all said and done. Like, obviously, Nyssa ends up helping Kim and Adam escape. But now it's like, okay, so where'd she go? The only thing she has... once again, I still don't think she knows that Seg's alive. Maybe that conversation came up just like off camera, but she doesn't know that he's alive. But the fact of the matter is she's going to go rescue her son. She can't go to either side because she's betrayed both of them. So it's like, even if she's helped out in this instance, she betrayed the resistance and everything. So it's like, where do we go with that, you know? So it's actually kind of interesting, speaking of resistance, because obviously, like, you know, Jaina and Dev are trying to recruit people to, you know, help assassinate Zod. But it's like, because, you know, even if you hide out on this planet, like, Zod's going to not stop until everyone submits. You're either dead or you're under his rule. So he will find you no matter where you hide on this planet. And obviously, we know his plans go beyond Krypton. So it's like, we have to stop him because, yeah, you might have had terrible leaders in the past, whether it be the voice of Rao or maybe even, you know, Darren Vax. But the fact of the matter is Zod is a whole other beast on his own. So it's like, we need to stop him, but no one else would. Now, it's interesting because Jaina brings up the whole conversation of, did you ever think about joining the resistance? And it's like, oh yeah, Dev thought about it for a little bit, but then it's like, but Jax-Ur is the reason why he stopped, because she led Black Zero. Yes, she wasn't the one that directly killed Dev's parents, but she was the leader of that group, so their actions kind of fall back on her. Like, they were following her ideals and rules to kind of just do whatever they did. So, once again, like, showing you the fact is that, and it's kind of interesting, the parallels too, because, like, Val is he's kind of like a 180 to what Zod represents, whereas Jax is kind of like the same, but they're just two oppositions. I mean, because we already know, like, as Black Zero, she did a lot of stuff just because she thought it was kind of for the greater good. So really any different from Zod, and that's kind of the parallels even Val brings up later on. The fact is you're willing to threaten to kill Lyta. The fact of the matter is, like, that makes you no different from Zod. Like, how can you not see that? But once again, for her, it's like, I need to do whatever it takes to win this war. Yes, my way might be messed up, but it's better than Zod. It's like choosing between two evils. Like, what is it? What, you know? And that's even the whole question that, like, Dev had. It's like, honestly, I don't even know what's right and wrong anymore. So that's why it's like, who can really say who's right? Especially the way Jax is handling things. It's not like she's handling things the best way, but obviously a lot of people rally behind her because they want to take down Zod, but also because they think Val is kind of alone with everything, but obviously he isn't. So, but for Dev, it's like the only side he's ever known, the only person he's ever been able to trust is Jaina. So it's like his side will always be with her, always and forever, just because of that, you know? So that's the side he believes in and fights for and with. So it's just a complicated thing. And even Val is being held by Jax. And I'm assuming, once again, it's the whole thing of, like, she still needs him to be a political figure for the resistance. It's like, I can't take the chance you're out there doing whatever you want to try and stop everything your own way. It's like, no, I need you here where I can. Just kind of similar to how Zod tries to keep Lyta so close. You're so important to me, which obviously Val is very important to Jax on a personal level, but also what he represents as an L. And once again, it's just the parallels run so damn deep between Zod and Jax. Then there's the whole situation of when the time came for Zod to try and rescue Lyta, he's actually talking to her and everything. And I love, like, Brainiac kind of froze. I guess it was just all, you know, happening in the context of, like, a microseconds all inside of Seg's head, so time in the real world kind of stopped, and it's like Brainiac's like, obviously he's going to work with Seg because he needs Seg alive because this is the only piece of him that's technically left. And so it's like, oh, the fact of the matter is Zod is such a good liar that when the time comes, he believes his lies so much. He's claiming that this is about light. About why did he get the gun on you? Why did he get the drop on you? Because you were for a split second distracted by learning that Lyta had been captured by the Resistance. But then, you know, in that moment, what did he do? Rather than him being caught up in it, he took that moment to be gaining the control of the situation, showing you that no matter what the circumstances may be, even if it's Lyta, he will always want to win his war. That will always come first, more so than anything. And even Seg had said, like, don't jeopardize trying to save Lyta. And he's like, yo, you think I would? Well, later on, Kim and Adam ended up discovering the fact of the matter is they had soldiers that were waiting. Basically, they had, like, prisoner people or whatever kind of disguised as Sagittari leaving. So it's like they never actually left. Like, Zod was scheming from the beginning on how he was going to handle this whole situation. And it's like, wow. You are quite the piece of crap, showing, like, trying to make it seem like you care, like, oh, your mother's so important to you, but it's like winning this war is that important to you. Once again, he might justify as being like, I was trying to get both, but the fact of the matter is, you know, you would lose one for the other. And I think even Jax was kind of actually surprised when he was like, oh, I'm going to choose Lyta. I think she was actually kind of being like, no, you're going to end up choosing winning your war, because either way, it's like it was all going to shift the way, you know, the whole situation, you know, plays out, like the way Krypton might see him and just like how everything goes moving forward with this war and everything. It would change everything, either choice he made, but you can tell it kind of bothered him, being like, I actually didn't expect him to do that. But now you see like, oh yeah, because he had an ace up his sleeve. I do like that when Jaina and Dev show up, you know, even Seg is like, nah, if you need to kill him, even if it means killing me, you know, Jaina couldn't pull the trigger, which is interesting. Jaina from season 1 most likely would have without hesitation. Dev was like, but if you won't, I will. Zod knew like this, he will pull the trigger. So he throws a knife at Jaina and Dev grabs it with his arm. I was like, that's so dope. And then you have one of the sickest moments of like, they're escaping and it's like Brainiac's talking to him and he's just kind of like getting all John Wick with it. Bam, 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 bam. And even Dev and Jane are like, what the hell? Dev's like, how did you get so good? And then Seg's like, yeah, time in the Phantom Zone. Because once again, can't tell anyone he's Brainiac. Will, like, you know, combine with Brainiac because no one would trust or listen to him at that point. But that shit was super impressive. Just clear shots and just bam, bam, bam. You know, which is interesting because I've never seen the John Wick movies. I've seen trailers, I've seen commercials, but I've never seen them. At one point in time, I need to sit back and just like binge them at one point in time. I'll probably wait till the third one comes out on digital. Nevertheless, I'm going on a tangent. But nevertheless, so that was pretty dope. But then, you know, Jax is kind of a lady of her word. The moment the time comes, it's like and presents it to Krypton. And I was like, okay, you see her kind of hesitate for a second because I think there was a part of her that didn't want to do that because Val was asking her not to do it. But even she felt a little wrong about it. But it's like to prove a point, what she's willing to do for this war. She slits Lyta's throat to everyone on Krypton, including Zod, Dev, Jaina, and, you know, Seg have to look at this. And that's going to be interesting to see where they go going forward because it's like, we got to take down Zod, but it's not like we can kick it with the Resistance. The Resistance kind of because the Resistance is more Black Zero now because of this. I mean, to be fair, I don't think everyone's going to agree with the way Jax is handling things, especially because Val is so against it. But other people are like, I don't care to, you know, so even the Resistance at this point is going to be split between those who kind of side with Val and those who side with Jax. So it's like, it's a whole complicated mess. I'm very interested to see where all of this ends up taking us going forward, especially because of Seg having Brainiac inside of his head. Even if it's just that minuscule amount, that there's still going to be so much left, especially like him utilizing that going forward is such an interesting thing. So I'm very curious to see where this goes. Once again, kind of leading my thought of like, I do believe when it's all said and done, Adam's going to time travel. Maybe even Seg will time travel to kind of undo a lot of this stuff just because we didn't necessarily get the moments of like how a lot of stuff happened, like Jack's eye. That's what I'm kind of still pushing. Like, I think we're going to get that as a time travel story for this. Potentially, but then you messing with time, there will be consequences, things shift. Even when you try to change things, don't necessarily mean they'll change for the better because you don't know what the ripple effects will be like. So ultimately, we'll have to wait and see whether that ends up being the case. But I'm very excited to see what the next episode has in store for us. But really, that's all I want to talk about. So next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.